One of my most favorite things when I'm making quilts is the making or the pulling of the different fabrics out of my fabric stash and seeing what I want to use where and how everything works together. So one of the things that you've heard and is so true, and that is it's not really the color of the fabric. Everybody talks about how they like your colors, but it's actually the value of the fabric. For the quilt that we're going to be working on at the beginning of 2024, it's a cube quilt, and I'm not sure what the quilt looks like yet, but it's going to involve blocks like these. These are some new cube blocks that I made because long ago I made a quilt that I really liked using the same idea of these cubes. So I wanted to try it again with new fabrics and maybe a new quilt design. So it's important for this quilt and for many quilts to be able to distinguish the value of fabrics. And so this quilt, these blocks need to have 3 different values. Oftentimes it's not too hard to do values between fabrics if you're just picking a dark and a light of a green or something. But when you're trying to do 3 different values, it becomes a little more difficult because there's more involved. You're trying to watch how they match with one another and make sure that the values are showing up. So when we talk about fabric values, we're talking about the lightness and darkness, and maybe shades and tones have a little bit to do with it, but mainly it's the lightness and darkness of the fabric. For your beginning, if you haven't done a lot of it, and for this quilt, when I made it long ago, I found it was really easy, much easier to choose one color that you're going to start with. And so for my example here, I've chosen blue. Blue's a good color, and I picked from my stash 3 different blues: a darker, a medium, and a light. And then oftentimes when we pull them from our stash, we're right there on them, and so, oh, that looks dark, medium, light. But if you step back and way back, you sometimes will find that maybe you could find a better fabric. So these fabrics, when I stepped back, and if I'm not sure, I can squint my eyes to look as far as I can. Oftentimes I used to use, and I still use, these little peephole thing, where you look through a peephole and it shows the fabrics much farther away, and then you can see the difference in them. I've often now, and I didn't do this years ago because it was before I had a cell phone, I think, or before I knew how to use it. You can take your phone and you can stand back or put the fabrics across. You might put them up on your design wall and take a photo of them. And I did that earlier today. Let me see if I can find that photo. That's not it, of course. Well, maybe it was quite a few days ago. I'm sure I took a picture. Nope. 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 Well, we'll just take another picture and see what we find. So I'm going to just take, and if I am far enough away, I can just take it like this. So I take a picture of them, and then I take the photo, and I go to my editing place on my phone, and there's a place there that says filters. I'm not sure if every phone has that, but I assume if yours does, this works great. You just go to filters, and then you can scroll over until the very end, and it will give you a black and white image of your fabrics. and I can see there's the dark, there's the medium, and there's the light. So easy. And on this, for this block, these will work grand. So I put them aside and moved on. I wanted to show you another one where I think I changed my mind a little bit. Here is one that I had laid out, and I had this dark, and I had this medium, and I had this light. And I did them and they looked okay, but then the longer I looked at them, or when I went to stand very far back, there wasn't as much variation between this light and this medium. The dark was fine. The dark really showed dark. So I found another hunk of fabric, and this is much lighter, and I think it will be a good variation. So also, the same thing sort of happened here. Now this one started out as a green. This was my light, because I wanted this yellow has a little green in it. I wanted that to be the light. This was the medium, and this was going to be the dark. And there is a difference there, but again, when I looked at it, I thought maybe I can go a little darker than this, because this is just a shade up, but I could go even darker with this one, and I can tell a marked difference there. So one thing I also found as I do several of these is if you're not sure, and I do this with all of my design stuff, let it sit on your design wall for a day or two. If there's no rush, there's no hurry, you can come back the next day and look at it and say, I think I need to change that color. It's a whole lot easier to do changes before you cut. Let's see, I usually do like one color blocks. I will pick pink and get into my pinks and find a dark, a medium, and a light. That works really pretty well until you think about reds. And reds are difficult because often you may not have very many light reds. I found these reds work dark, medium, light, but so many times reds sort of fade into pinks, and there's a variation of pinks to purpley pinks versus salmony pinks. So you might find that reds are a little more difficult. And then once you get really good at it and you want to try like more than one color in a block, here's one thing. Here's one place you can do it. If with your medium fabric, you have a dark fabric, you have a medium fabric, and this fabric has some gold and some red in it. So, and it also has something on it there. A piece of fabric from something else. Anyway, if you start with this medium fabric and go with a light that goes with it and a dark, then you can have a cube that may have two different colors involved. So once you do the same color cubes for a while, then probably you can move up and move on to another, two colors together in a cube that still, it has to show dark, medium, light. Notice this purple, light up here, then there's a dark here, and the medium is right here. So in order to have these cubes look like hollow cubes, you definitely have to have the difference, and it has to be noticeable enough from some distance, I think, to make the effect work. So hopefully that little bit on finding your values will help. I will have at the beginning of next year, January 1st, in my newsletter, I will have a more description on what we're going to do to make this, what you're going to need to make this quilt, and a page which also tells you what I just said about value and what you need to make it, the rulers that you need, and I don't know, I can't tell you the exact amounts of fabric because I don't know how many blocks I'm going to make yet. But that's okay. If you just want to make one, that's fine. Whenever you learn something new about value, it will work with you on making one block, or tomorrow making a quilt with boats in it or something. It's always good to learn as much as you can about value with your quilts. Here are some of the other, I guess can't say pairs because there's 3 of them. Here are some of the other colors that I am planning to cut my pieces from, just to give you an idea of some. I usually lay them out like this, and then when I come in I can look at them and make sure before I go and cut the pieces from them. So I think I'm going to have some more, maybe some more oranges, and maybe some, I don't know, a few more, maybe greens. I usually make a few and see what I need, and then maybe go digging around in the stash, find some more. So, thanks for watching, and I hope you'd like to join in on this little cube thing next year.